All right, so I think what I'm going to do to kick this off, I'm going to read what I sent to the board last night. Yesterday was a very busy day. Actually, it started on Sunday, late Sunday morning, with a lot of flood of emails and things that were starting to happen in regards to COVID-19 and what communities were doing or thinking about doing. And of course, what we know about the schools and their closing. So I'm going to start by reading the correspondence that I sent to the board last night. Today, our department directors, which was yesterday, as well as other key staff and I participated in a teleconference by the Maine CDC regarding COVID-19 community preparedness. After the conference, we discussed what we learned and discussed the department's thoughts as to how we plan to handle this pandemic with the goal of helping do our part to flatten the curve and minimize the spread of COVID-19 in our community and within our municipal facilities. As such, we consider our goal to be two-part, meaning that we do as much as is prudent and practical within our facilities to help minimize the spread in the community, and also to protect our staff so we can continue to provide the much needed services that our residents need. As you already know, many of our staff possess mandatory specialized training and certifications to provide the many services we deliver. It is very unlikely that we would be able to fill those positions should they become unavailable to work due to exposure to COVID-19. It is true that our front-end staff are young and not considered to be in the at-risk factor groups for becoming gravely ill. However, they are still susceptible and can become carriers of the virus. We now know that according to CDC guidance that the virus is easily transmitted by people not exhibiting symptoms, and that the virus can stay alive on hard surfaces for 3 days. We should consider these facts when deciding what level of services we plan to offer at the town office, as risk to transmitting from the public to staff and the staff to the public is real. Further, the clientele we provide service to range from young adults to high-risk senior citizens. A decision to close the town office to foot traffic is a hard one, as it will certainly cause some hardships. However, one only has to consider the risk to public health and continued services to help inform their decisions. I do expect that many of our citizens will exercise caution and minimize their travels to public spaces in the community. But we do know, based on what we've heard happening elsewhere, that many people disregard public health advisories. The attached outline provides preliminary recommendations for you to consider. I hope that you've had some time to review before this meeting here at 11:30 today on Tuesday. I would have liked to have had this for you sooner, but our work was ongoing and fast and furious, developing, getting guidance from the CDC, meeting with the departments, and then attending the school board meeting last night, the joint school committee meetings, and then afterwards we formulated some options for the board to consider, and that was sent to them last evening. So with that said, what I've done, there have been updates coming in regards to what other communities are doing and what motor vehicles, Bureau of Motor Vehicles has just announced a short while ago that all of their branch offices, including their state office, is closed, meaning that if we have registrations that are complicated, that need us to make phone calls for guidance, there's not going to be anybody there to process those registrations. We also know that with the state of emergency declared by the governor, that law enforcement, from what I understand, is not going to be enforcing expired plates. They're going to allow people to drive with their plates expired for, I think, 30 to 60 days. That stuff is, I just got that, so you might want to check online for accuracy on the motor vehicle's website. But that is something that is encouraging because for us, there are options for people to register their cars online or by, but we cannot do car registrations by mail. And then with the options for rapid renewal online, it applies to only renewals, not for transfers or new vehicles or vehicles sold from one person to another, where there's bill of sales and stuff like that have to be processed here, and sales tax needs to be collected here. So with that said, I'll go into the outline that I've given the board, and this again is based on, I put this together based on what you know, I've talked to the board before and I've asked them for their input, the department heads and key staff, as well as what's going on with other communities. And so I will go through those and stop me if you, as we go through, if you have questions. Obviously, there are some things that are fairly simple and straightforward in places, public buildings that we can close down that have very little hardship on the community. The one that has the most hardship, obviously, is right here in the town office. So we have a couple of scenarios we can discuss as to what level of service we can provide at the town office, and I'll go through that. So, actions to consider by this board. Immediate full closing of facilities to public access. The easy ones are public works, only accessible to staff. Pollution control, only accessible to staff for the protection of the staff and the people that we need to be able to continue to work there. They're highly specialized, they have certifications. If they become ill, they cannot do their job. And also for safety to the public because it is a high-risk area. The library, I coordinated with the library since the library has their own governance board. I consulted with the library director and he consulted with his board and they decided that they were going to close. They pulled the board.
And pull me.
Okay, well. Safety complex, we had a couple of groups using the safety complex for activities, nonprofits that were using it. We stopped that as well. By executive decision, and the board can decide all of these earlier things that I'm announcing right now were sort of executive decisions on a to be determined basis by this board if that's something they're going to continue to do moving forward. The recreation department is comprised of a few different aspects to that. The fitness center has been closed, and that's recommended by the Maine CDC. And the school, since the community gym, the fitness center, is on the school campus, there were some concerns expressed by the school about that remaining open. That is currently closed. All rec department activities are canceled until further notice. I think there are some programs that are sort of in the hopper. We're not, you know, like in April, and we're not going to say right now. Those things are done. We're going to play that by ear and see how things progress. The multi-purpose is closed. There is a question as to whether or not this board would consider the community walkers that like to walk around in the rec department, if that's something that we want to continue to allow. The Boy Scout building is closed. That building is being utilized by the Boy Scouts mostly for their meetings. You're going to have to consider if that's one building that we want to continue to be off limits. Those are some of the more simple, with the exception of the rec department, decisions to be made as for public access. Town office, what are our...
Gary, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Did you want to...
Go line by line?
That's not what I'm saying. Since you've immediate full closing facilities, should we, instead of going backwards, can we take care of that section?
Absolutely.
And then we can go to another subsection that you put together?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, based on what our town manager has stated, what do board members think right now? Is that appropriate?
I would agree. I see no problem here.
I want to acknowledge that we did get an email about the gym. While I understand the concerns, you know, I don't think that I, for one, do not have the medical background or the knowledge to go against what the CDC or the school recommends. So I think that was the right thing to do. And then for the community walkers, I feel like, you know, you have a question mark there. If we're closing it, if we're closing everything for everyone else, you know, I'm not sure that we should, because they still may use the restrooms, which exposes these people to have to go and clean it and disinfect. Just my opinion, I would close the multi-purpose completely if you're going to do that.
Really quickly, you guys, the department has studied this on board with this, and is every department, this section, yes.
Yep.
So what would be the appropriate action at this point?
Well, what do you guys think about the walkers?
Yeah, the walkers,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess, are the big issue.
Well, there's, just this morning, there was a couple of people that usually attend the gym that came to the rec department asking if they could walk around as well, other than the routine walkers that usually come every single day, so, we're seeing that as the possibility of more people wanting to come in if that would remain open. So I would be on the same side as Lori saying, I think it might be a good idea just to close down the building, for safety reasons, just for closing everything else.
I think another consideration too, or not a consideration, but I want you all to know that, you know, we've already discussed, you know, should we decide to close facilities, we have projects that we know that we want to do. We're going to take advantage of our downtime to take care of some things relevant to each department. And I think the rec department, for instance, with the fitness center, for example, we're going to take that time, that downtime, sanitize, clean, do some maintenance. If there's some painting, some floor waxing, whatever it is, we're gonna, you know, that's gonna be a great time, if you wanna say that, to go ahead and do those things. So everybody's gonna continue to work and make preparations for other stuff that's coming, you know, for activities in the summer or whatnot.
So you're doing no layoffs here?
No.
Really?
Pollution control, with the construction going on, is that gonna still continue?
Yes, as far as I know, I spoke with the foreman. So far, no direction from his boss to take a break or whatever. We're gonna keep moving forward.
Anything else? Lori, Doug, all set?
So I guess they're recommending that we do shut down the multi?
Yeah.
And are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that these people have work to decide. I mean, they're the ones that are, you know, doing the research, and like, I've seen all the emails coming through from every other community, and everyone's doing the same thing. I mean, I can't question that, because I don't know better.
Okay.
What do you need?
Do we need a motion and a second at this point on that subsection? If so, can someone make a motion?
So moved. We accept the closures as suggested.
Second.
Stand by Lori. Any more discussion on this subject? All in favor? Carried. All right, continue with the town office options.
So in your outline, the next point of discussion is the town office, what the options are. First one would be closed to the public. Staff still working. We could accept tax and sewer payments. People can make payments online through our website. We could accept payments by credit card, by the phone, and payments can be submitted by mail with checks. Motor vehicle registrations, if you were to do those online, you can only do renewals. Not everybody has access to computers and that technology or can't navigate. We would encourage that people who have need a little bit of instruction how to navigate the website, we can help them out by, they can simply call us. We'll put some guidance up on the website instructing them to do so. Registrations cannot be done by mail. Okay. I think I got some extra guidance here. Natalie, help me out on that.
That's new registrations,
Huh?
new registrations can be done by mail.
New registration, there is some guidance for new registrations to be done by mail. That's part of that extra handout that you were given. That doesn't have any punch holes in it. Customers can provide all the required documents, send it to the town office, drop by mail or Dropbox, or email. If they need new plates, we would have to ask them by phone what they would like, if they're rolling or transferring plates. You know, there's a protocol here that they can do things by mail. The other thing too, and I guess with motor vehicles is that we can process, we'll be able to process transactions by mail, but know that motor vehicles, the main office in Augusta is closed. Sometimes we do have to call with difficult questions, and there will not be any support. So it could very well happen that some people might not be able to register their vehicles. However, the Secretary of State has indicated that they're not going to be enforcing expired plates. So,
We're gonna put the word out on that?
yes, everything that I got a section here on website
Yeah,
updates,
yeah.
and we'll get to that.
Okay.
Vital records, birth certificate, death and birth certificates can be processed by phone, email, mail. Elections, voter registration cards can be done by mail. Absentee ballots can be done by mail. And I know that we have an upcoming election, nomination papers can be done by mail as well. Can be mailed in, we can do the Dropbox thing, there's things that we can do. General assistance, we can do applications by phone. A lot of communities are doing that, and process those. Community development and assessing, inquiries can be done by phone and email. Code enforcement, the same, inquiries can be done by phone and email. The town health officer, which happens to be our code enforcement guy, will coordinate with the ambulance department for guidance and assistance. So this is not typically the normal scope of work for the town's health officer, but should he be asked to do work within the community, he's gonna lean on probably Chris Albert with our ambulance department, who's our safety, our training person for OSHA and health and stuff like that, trainings. Those are the options if we were to close, okay, of services we could continue to provide. Town office limited hours, and I would say if this is something you're going to consider, we would have to reassess as needed. I'm giving you an example here based on some other communities that I've seen at 2 a.m. To 2 p.m. hours of business, for example. Bit of a concern, we feel that this would concentrate people into larger crowds, not necessarily what we were shooting for. Some towns are considering this, like Fort Kent, I'm not sure if they're still gonna do this, they are considering limited hours. The difference between the Fort Kent office and here is they have a very large lobby and they have a vestibule, and so they can actually queue their customers and allow for some social distancing, whereas the town office over here is very crowded in the front. Not necessarily ideal for being able to provide some distance. We can use the drop-off box for payments. Our customers can continue to do that. But we would encourage public to utilize online payments, resources, or pay by check, by mail. If we were to do that, we would provide and require hand sanitizer use by customers, probably before their transaction and after. We could potentially install a clear protective barrier between the clients and staff. That's the limited hours option. The last option for town office would be to remain fully open and reassess as needed. We already have the drop-off box for payments. We could purchase, stand-up hand sanitizing stations, provided that we could find some right now, and require the customers to sanitize before and after transactions. We can continue to encourage the public to utilize online payments, resources, pay by check, by mail. And again, there too, we would install a clear protective barrier between clients and staff. That I will skip the outline and go into some points to consider at the back of your page, your document.
Where?
Considerations, it's called considerations.
Okay.
It's important that we kind of skip to that right now, as you're going to make a decision as to what level of hours we're going to have here at the town office. The town office closure to the public is definitely the most proactive measure. It's the most be safe than sorry type of reaction or action that we're going to implement. It's certainly going to cause some hardships to the public. And then when I made this outline, we didn't get the update from motor vehicles as to what we were going to do in respect to expired plates or transactions. I think they're going to be lenient on that. And obviously the hardship would have been the people that can't renew their vehicles registrations online and wouldn't be allowed to come in. But we do have some guidance where people could register their cars by mail. And so it's certainly going to be a longer process to do than what we're doing now. All other town business can be accomplished by phone and email.
Quick question.
Or mail, yes.
If this was closed down completely, if the town office closes down completely, and people are calling in for assistance or questions, we just have the one phone line, so if someone calls, does it tie up? Let's say we have 3 of the ladies working up front, they can all grab a phone?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Some of the staff considerations, you all set down?
Yep.
Okay. Staff considerations, and again, this goes back to what my opening statement about trying to protect the staff as well, so we can continue to provide the services. If we are open to the public, we are potentially putting our staff at risk for becoming exposed. And if they become exposed, and we know that they're exposed, they're gonna have to self-quarantine for 14 days. And once they're exposed, we're exposed, we could find ourselves in a position where we're not gonna be able to provide services because we don't have the motor vehicle agent that are trained to do registrations, like people that run the elections, or provide the vital statistics. So I think it's essential that we try to minimize as best we can the exposure to staff, so we can continue to at least service the community remotely, if you will, you know, by email or by phone or any other means that, other than coming into the building. Staff that would be suspected to be exposed, according to the CDC guidelines, a test won't be administered on them until they run a fever of at least 100 degrees. And we hear that testing is hard, but it's still hard to get right now. So there's still a lot of unknowns as to whether or not what that means. I think we would consider that anybody that was working in the organization that was being exposed, be it themselves, and they thought they might be, or they're running a fever, or somebody in their family, in their household is at risk, or quarantined, we're going to tell those employees that they need to stay home for 14 days. And again, this outline is for today. Things are changing all the time, and we may have to adjust based on what we learn. One of the things to consider if we do send employees home that are non-EMS staff, are we sending them home with or without pay? Meaning, are they going to be required to take their EBT time for that time off? Or are we going to send them home with pay as precaution, because we don't really know? We're sort of in uncharted territory here in that respect. With EMS, you know, they are in the front lines, and they could be, with the ambulance department, exposed. We're going to treat that as if it might be a workers' comp claim if they have to stay home if they were exposed. We don't know if that's going to work that way, but we're going to at least document the case that way. What we're telling them is that if they are exposed, they're going to be home, sent home with pay, because they can't continue to do their job, obviously, if their health has been compromised, or they could put others at risk. Again, sort of a preliminary plan that we might have to reassess and learn and see what other communities are doing in that respect. So going back, I guess that kind of concludes sort of the town office things. I will say that yesterday, and I get it, people don't mean, they don't mean harm or anything like that. You know, one of our first customers yesterday came in and self-declared that they just got back from Europe and their flight was delayed, but they wanted to come in and pay their taxes before they conclude interest. Should that employee should that person have stayed home and mailed payments by check in the mail? Probably. And so we had a lot of people come in yesterday telling us where they had been. Some of them came from Florida, some of them came from overseas. And so you get the idea that, you know, if we remain open, there are people that are going to disregard the advisories that are out there, come here and put people at risk. And I think it puts us at risk to be able to provide services for the duration of this, however long it's going to last, and also from the community standpoint of creating a space for people to still come in here and get out of their homes and potentially spread the virus. As we know that people are asymptomatic, that don't show symptoms, are spreading the disease. They don't have to have a fever to be infectious. So, that being said, my recommendation to you would be that we do close the town office and we provide our services via phone email, mail. We'll be of assistance as much as we can. We'll put as much guidance on the website as to somebody has a question or a call for a building permit. Whatever it is, we're gonna continue to provide services. It might take a little longer than it would normally if somebody could come through the door.
What I've seen in other places and everything seems to be based on a 2-week basis to be evaluated on an ongoing basis. Is that something you could say we're gonna be closed for the next 2 weeks and
Yes.
we'll give guidance if we're gonna be longer or by 2-week sessions, or
Yeah.
is that how, would that be appropriate?
I think that's definitely appropriate. Some communities are saying close until further notice, close for 2 weeks, we will reassess. I think that when you make your motions here today, that you consider, there's gonna be discussion here in our agenda that we're gonna add as other businesses to what are the boards gonna do for in respect to meetings, finance committee meetings, and being able to convene a meeting.
Yeah, I've got
And
that in
so
my head.
if we don't have, if the boards should decide that we're gonna suspend board meetings for a month, then that would make it hard for us to convene and reassess. So is there a way for us to make an action here that allows for some flexibility to extend beyond 2 weeks or beyond the end of March without having to convene another board meeting? So I guess that's something for you to consider.
Yes, Lori?
I think I saw, and that could be a very early email, because, you know, we've had all the town, like, I mean, I've read what so many towns are doing now, I'm really confused. I think someone in there said that they closed their town office, but they were willing to take appointments if somebody really, like, didn't understand how to do something or couldn't do it on the phone. Is that a good or bad idea? I just want to throw it out there.
I would, go ahead.
You know, so many of our citizens here are not going to understand what's happening here as far as our services. And by appointment, if they're calling, at least they want to know why. But are we going to have anything here posted or an individual to at least inform the public that this is why we're closed, and if you need an appointment or if you can delay your transactions, that we can at least advise them in that manner. Not everybody's online. And
I think we'll have guidance up on the doors in our buildings, online. We're gonna send out a press release, letting everybody know what the options are, and I think people are free to call in if they have questions. I think we take appointments on a case-by-case basis. There's a lot of things I think we can resolve over the phone, and for those more complicated issues, I would certainly be willing to sit down and make appointments on a case-by-case basis, if that makes any sense.
so really what the thought is just to put a post outside the door that we are closed for this reason till such a date, and to return
Yes.
beyond that date.
Yeah, absolute communication notification is going to be mandatory.
I mean, what we'll utilize the Facebook, like the rec department and PD and ambulance Facebook accounts to push the message on social media. We will utilize the press to do that as well. And then we will do publications and keep our website updated daily, because we know that the guidance from CDC is updated often and things change. We know that there's probably going to be daily updates, and so part of our protocol will be in the morning when we come in, to look at what the updates are and refresh our website, make sure that everything is, all the advisories are, and the links are fresh.
So,
And,
so somebody comes to the door. These employees are at their stations. What do they do? Just ignore them? How do you respond to them? I mean, they're gonna be looking at you like,
I know,
why don't you open the door?
right. I think there are a lot of places that are closing their doors, and I'll give you some examples. Some of the credit unions that close their lobbies to drive-through only. A lot of some of the restaurants, like McDonald's, has closed their dining area.
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons.
But I'm just saying, what do you plan on, what would you do? You would just tell them to go home?
I think we can talk, we can go outside, I guess, and talk to them. We're learning as we go, Doug,
Yeah, I understand.
you know? We're not gonna be rude and say, Latasha, who there? It's not gonna be like that, obviously, so I think we can find ways to communicate with them, to let them know that we can provide services just in a different manner.
Well, that's fine, as long as they don't get ignored.
No,
I guess
no,
really that's-
absolutely true,
that-
yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at, is
Yeah.
just don't look down like there's nobody there and they just.
Don't answer the door or go to the window at least and say, I'm sorry there, but see the sign, we're officially closed
Yeah.
until further
We'll
notice.
be sensitive to that, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that you're gonna have very little of that, just because, like you said, like, Tim Hortons, you can
Yeah.
only go through the drive-through, McDonald's, you can only go through the drive-through, the credit unions, you can't go in, like,
Yeah.
they're gonna,
Everybody's
people are
dealing
gonna
with it.
see this
Yeah.
so much that
Yeah.
it's just gonna be, oh, you
Yeah.
know, I,
We're all dealing with it.
you know, and whether it's all overkill, like some people think or not, I mean, it doesn't matter what decision we make, one way or another.
Yeah. We
Like,
need
it-
to err
we-
on the side
Right,
of safety
I think I'd
versus-
rather go overboard
There we go.
than not respond and be the one community that's sitting here that didn't and,
Yeah,
you know, everybody's sick.
that's a very good point, Maureen.
It's fights that are
I would
done.
add one more thing in there. I've been thinking about this. We do, you know, I guess I would ask that consideration be made to not allow staff outside of the St. John Valley for any business-related travel.
So we can talk about that. I know that some of our community's largest employer, Twin Rivers, has, I think, implemented a 250-mile restriction for their employees, and also one for going to Canada. These are some as well. If they do, then they're not, it's my understanding, they're not going back into the workplace, so I mean, you can, I don't know the legality of that
Well, you
off
can
the top of my head.
control the work day,
Mhm.
is what I'm suggesting at this point, just the work day.
Yeah.
The personal stuff, I don't know how you control that.
So you're saying business, like,
Yeah, in
Oh,
other words,
like there should, you
business.
said
Oh,
business,
absolutely.
there
During the
shouldn't be
day.
any training outside
Right.
of, right?
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
there's nothing going on for training anywhere. Right?
No, but just,
Yep,
you know,
absolutely.
it covers the valley, because right now our ambulance personnel are gonna be in the valley. I don't know what else out there,
I mean, the MIFE transfers,
yeah.
that's something that you guys probably might be looking at.
Potentially, it depends, I mean, with some staff members being out and all that,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, and then if we have to self-quarantine, if we do have exposures, and we get short to the point where transfers are gonna be not a priority, so, yeah, but there's that potential, absolutely.
Kevin?
What happens if we have employees that live in Canada?
There's no travel, I mean, restrictions as far as Canadians and Americans right now.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It won't be long now. Canadians are not gonna be allowed out of the country. Next couple days, I think.
Really?
So I don't know about,
We-
that's a good question. You
Cross-
got Canadians, how they'll deal with that.
Cross-border traffic is something that we're monitoring. Open borders is something that we're monitoring very closely right now, because as you all know, all of the valley towns send their municipal waste to a landfill in Canada. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
that's something that we are closely monitoring right now, because we need to be prepared for, if the border should close to that, what are we gonna do? So, like I
Kevin,
said.
How
things
many
are-
employees do you have that live there? Just the one, huh?
Like,
Anyone else in your departments that live outside of, or in Edmonton, or in New Brunswick? Key employees, huh?
I would think, I mean, there's a lot of nurses and I would think if they're gonna close something like that, I would imagine if, you know, key personnel are needed to cross, they're gonna be able to cross. I would hope, I mean.
I think they're gonna label that as unnecessary travel,
Yeah.
so if it's for work, that'll be one thing, but if you say you're going to Bangor shop, that's fine.
Right.
Town manager has made a recommendation that we completely shut down.
Completely foot traffic.
The foot traffic, absolutely.
through the door.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? Any more thoughts before we react to this? Or take action on it, I mean?
We brought up the issues that concern here, so they're aware of it, but I don't have anything else.
No, I don't either.
I would make a motion that we go with, town manager's recommendation and follow the outline that he's put for office closure.
Indefinitely or via a stretch of time or?
I think the two of you should be able to decide that, like, over the phone if we can't meet, so I don't know that we should put indefinitely, I think
Okay.
you guys should,
I would start with 2 weeks and then go day by day.
you know, or as needed, or can we make a motion that says, you know, he can call the chair and vice chair and you guys can make that decision,
I believe you can make that
you
motion,
know?
yes. You could include that in your motion, that way it would avoid, because the next subject we'll talk about would be the board meetings.
Yeah,
So if you make that form of the motion, which would include further closures to be in consultation with the board chair and the vice chair, with the town manager.
or I mean, even all of us, like, he messaged all of us, we all kind
Yeah,
of, I mean,
we're all
oh
available.
no, then that would be a quorum and we can't do
That's-
that.
Yeah, we can't do
Never
that.
mind,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, I got it.
Erase.
Doug, you okay with that?
The very
Yes, I-
first,
You want to second that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Kevin,
Here.
give Jason a bit of
Okay.
distinction.
All right, let's talk about board meetings before we move on to other stuff.
Okay.
In my head, coming here, I had kind of resolved that we should suspend our board meetings until further notice. Which will include, I mean, if budgets are late, they've been late before. We've done them before, in July. I mean, this is a different time, different place, and I'm not opposed to doing that.
well, and I think the legislature is looking at, relaxing the freedom of information law, right?
Yeah.
To allow for just, you know, if you had to do a Skype meeting
yeah.
or a,
Yeah.
you know, but,
Well, we currently have tentatively planned a finance committee meeting this week, and
Next week.
yeah.
2 board meetings next week.
The finance committee meeting this week?
The
Yeah.
19th.
And so,
Finance.
finance, not the board.
You're not on it.
Oh, sorry,
And
sorry.
they're waiting for our
Yeah, yeah.
lead.
Didn't have anything written down, okay,
I don't
I
think
got
we
it.
should do
So,
that.
I think, you know, we could definitely postpone those.
Yeah.
And then the chair has the ability to call the meetings, so you can consult with your board and decide when and when, not
So
for 2.
for at least the finance committee and the budget meeting that we have, I would suggest that be canceled, postponed,
Okay.
whatever word is appropriate, for our upcoming board meeting on next Tuesday, I think it is, that we suspend that one until further notice.
So maybe we should just follow the town's operation, you know, if the town
That would make
opens up,
sense to me.
if the town opens up in a couple of weeks, that we
Yeah.
resume.
Yeah, and we'll, again, with, like Lori has suggested, these are decisions that can be made by you and I and our town manager.
The only thing that I have for pressing matters, there is obviously business by the board that needs to be done. There may be issues that come up that may need board action, other than our budget process, you know, and so we have a little bit of time that we can kind of push that off a little bit. So I think we're gonna have to play it by ear.
And we'll get more guidance, right?
Yeah.
If we can, you know, if the rules are laxed on the Freedom of Information Act, that we can maybe do things, you know, that really pressing via phone, email, or Skype, or Messenger, or whatever.
I know that some of the issues that we were supposed to deal with in some of the next coming meetings was to decide on the revitalization projects that we were supposed to do. We have those
Yeah.
contractors waiting for a decision as to what are our intentions. And so by postponing our meetings for a while, it's going to kick that further down and, you know, cause hardship on the contractor as well. So it's something to consider.
We'll play that one by ear. We'll see how far we can get and what happens in the next couple to 3 weeks.
Okay.
Motion Do we need a motion on that one, or is that inclusive of what we talked about a while ago?
No, I think you have the authority or to call a meeting or cancel a meeting. I don't, it's my opinion.
I don't know that we do need one at all, but anyway, I just propose that we follow the town's.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a couple of minutes, I'm just gonna make a phone call. I see that we're gonna be a little bit later than I thought, so let me clear my agenda a little bit here. Go out in the other room here. Doug, if you wanna continue with discussion, go right ahead.
So, our town website, we put some preliminary information yesterday with CDC links and what, some of the facilities that we've already closed, and that this board is going to be meeting to make some decisions. We're gonna continue, like I said earlier, to update our website with fresh information regarding what we do here, and any new guidance from the state of Maine or Maine CDC for the community, so that can be a resource to them. That will be something that we'll be updating every morning. And some of those links could even be like news releases by CDC. Whatever information you put out there as links, we'll put that into our website. Town staff, I just want to discuss. Just to kind of update you, what we're considering with town staff. We've already provided some COVID-19 guidance memo yesterday for protective measures and what they need to do to be safe, and if they should feel like they've been exposed. So they do have some guidance to guide them, and that's being distributed to all the employees. Again, that's something that will be updated as we learn, and send out maybe weekly memorandums or memorandums as needed as things change. We continue to assess our high-risk employees in high-risk workplaces such as the sewer department. I've let you know that we've already sent home a high-risk employee at the sewer department, a 60-plus age employee with underlying health issues. We did send that person home. They are exposed over there at the sewer department, and we cannot put that person at risk to COVID-19. So that person is at home with pay until further notice. EMS and ambulance department, they already have the CDC guidance or their own guidance for COVID-19 precautions. Again, if they were exposed, if they felt like they were exposed or at risk, or if they were positive, they would be required to quarantine for 14 days. We do have some concerns about the impacts to our staffing levels. In the ambulance departments, we serve our community and 2 other communities as well. And so we have already had discussions about how are we going to make sure that we maintain staff in the event that we lose employees. And so that might require us to pay more overtime. You know, we're going to have to be flexible and go on the fly here. And Eric has instructed me that maybe their guidelines are going to be relaxed a little bit to allow other people to come in. I know that we are encouraging the fire department staff to become drivers, if they're not already drivers, for the ambulance. I mentioned earlier that some of the EMS employees had questions about whether or not an exposure and a positive test to COVID-19 would be considered as a compensation claim. We don't have the answers to that. We will be discussing this with our workers' compensation provider and figure out how that's going to be handled. But we will treat such claims or such incidents as a claim for documentation purposes, and whether or not it becomes a workers' comp claim will be determined. Police department, we met yesterday. They're going to continue to provide the services that they provide. They're just going to utilize caution when entering suspect areas of maybe infection, and they will coordinate with EMS and Chris Albert, our exposure safety training guy, for if they do need to go into places that it might be of concern. Fire department, you know, we will work with the chief to provide resources and guidance to them as needed.
I have a question for Eric and maybe Ross. Do you have, I don't know what to call them, the medical suits that are necessary if you know you're going into an exposure area? Do you have these on hand already,
Minimal amount.
minimal amounts? And that means what?
Meaning I have very little gowns, I have maybe a few in each rig, in each ambulance. Masks, the N95 masks, I got like 4 boxes of them that were okay on. Gloves were okay on too, and the face shields, it's more the gowns. I put in a request yesterday.
You put in a request, that was my
Yeah.
next question.
To obtain more. That is gonna be based on your risk area and need. So there's no guarantee I'm gonna get those.
If
but I
the
certainly put in a
PD
request.
responds to something and they find that there's something going on,
Mhm.
looks like you've coordinated an effort to at least get EMS there, staff. Are you guys protected above and beyond? Can you wear gowns over your guns? Stupid question there, but I'm just wondering for the protection of your officers.
Actually, yeah, CDC did come out with a law enforcement response to that. Right now, our PPE is mostly gloves.
How about masks?
We have no masks.
The trick with the N95 masks is you need to be fit tested for that.
Yeah, that's true.
So in order for them, I mean, they can always throw it on if they want, but if they're not fit tested, I'm not sure what.
How long does it take to get fit tested?
Oh, it doesn't take very long. The hospital does that for us in 5-10 minutes, you can get fit tested. But with that being said, I just found out this morning, apparently they run low on supplies for fit testing too, so we're kind of in a bind. And I'm not certain of that, but I was definitely gonna find out there shortly if we have to do more fit testing with some firemen wanna drive for us. I will have it fit tested,
Okay.
make sure that we're covered.
Is that something that would be
Absolutely.
a benefit to the PD employees to get fit tested?
Oh, absolutely.
So, just so you know, and Eric was, so part of our CDC teleconference yesterday, there was discussion about, correct me if I'm wrong, they have established 4 tiers for,
Right.
if there's requests made for tests, supplies, and what
Mhm.
things that are needed for this, that they've assigned 4 tiers of who's gonna get what first.
Right.
And so I think EMS is at the bottom of the list, correct?
They were, at the top of the.
Were they at the top? Okay.
They were in
Well,
the tier
you-
1, which is your
Oh,
high
oh.
priority, because we're front line, so
Yeah.
we were
Were you on the tier 1 with the healthcare facilities?
tier 1 with the healthcare
Okay.
facilities,
Tier one is the high,
EMS.
this is where you need to be,
Yeah, EMS was in that list with the tier 1s there, so we
Okay.
were top of the line, or top of the list there, so I'm hopeful I'll get those gowns that I've requested.
Okay.
We'll see, I didn't get anything back as far as any emails from them or anything, so.
I'm not,
We've got something else, right?
we still have some other stuff to discuss.
Yeah, well, can we go to the big one? Can we go to the discussion on employee pay?
Employee pay. So, that's a good question. There are, again, this is sort of like uncharted territory. What I've seen other towns do, and I think some of the emails that I sent you from my listserv, other towns, just to kind of try to be helpful for you guys to have some perspective what other communities are thinking about in regards to their responses, their action plans, and what they're doing for their employees. Many of them who have employees that are considered to be exposed or positive are sent home with pay. Whether or not, I guess that's a community decision by this council, whether or not they want to do so, or they're going to require that they use up their sick time instead. That's entirely up to this board. You know, the thing is that it's a hard thing to weigh, because if we sit there and I'll just give you an example. We have one employee at the front who wasn't feeling well this morning, and we told her to stay home. And we don't know if she's gonna have a fever tomorrow, if it's gonna last. We don't know if the person's gonna have access to a test to be determined whether or not they have COVID-19. And so, are we gonna let them back into the workplace, or are we gonna tell them to stay home? And so is it fair to make them stay home and not pay them, or require them to use their sick time, or do we ask them to come in if we think that they're okay? And so you see where I'm going with this, there's two sides to this coin.
Well, and another, if they can't afford to stay home, like, if I'm sitting there and I need my paycheck, I might not tell you guys that I don't feel good and come in, so I'm not saying any of the staff in town would do that, you know, but, I mean, if you gotta pay a bill or you gotta, so. I feel like it's already in the budget, it's not like we're offering bonuses for staying home, it's in the budget that we were, you know, we're covering anyway, and,
I would highly suggest that what Lori is alluding to, I totally agree with you, that it's in the budget.
yeah, it's there, so.
And the big thing is that we don't want to discourage people from not coming in, from coming in if they're sick. But we can also classify or make a statement that says if it's not coronavirus or whatever it is, that at that point, if they're sick, like a common cold or whatever, then yeah, then it'd fall under EBT. But if it's determined that it's directly related to that,
Well, that's touchy, because
Touchy, yeah.
if you say you only are gonna get paid to stay home if it's determined that it's not, and then either they can't get a test, or it takes them 2 days to get a test, like they lose 2 days,
Well, if they were to be tested, it takes 48 hours to get the results.
yeah, so then they've lost a couple of days not
But, you know,
coming in.
at the same time,
How do you draw
CDC
the line?
guidance is telling,
Yeah.
so
is
either
telling
you
people
do it
if you have a
again.
fever, stay
Yeah.
home.
Well, I don't have a problem doing it.
In some of the guidance, it says if you have a fever, stay home, don't go to the hospital.
Mhm.
So it's questionable, you know, we're still
Under
trying to
100,
figure out
no.
how,
And don't go to the hospital under 100 degrees.
so, listen, we're learning as we go, and I think that we're gonna find some bumps in the road in respect to that, for sure. We're gonna have to figure it out as we go. I don't think there's a perfect plan.
I don't think you have anybody who would intentionally make anyone ill, and I don't think you have anyone who would take advantage of this for no reason, so I have no problem making a motion
Go ahead,
that you pay
I'll
them
entertain
if
it.
they're,
I'll entertain it.
get a little,
Everything you said.
Okay. There's my motion. I make a motion that, we continue to pay employees their normal pay if they're sent home or stay home
Without
To
digging
this.
into the EBTs.
due to this, yeah.
Doug?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. I think that was a good move. I think we made a good move on that. This way here,
I don't know what else we could do.
there's not much else. Yeah, not much
Now,
else.
then you start scrutinizing everybody, you know, are you sick, are you not sick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Gary, what do we have left?
Last thing I want for this board to consider is, the town of Madawaska operates our UDAG program, which is a lending program to some businesses in town. Most of those businesses are hospitality related, and they are going to be impacted by loss of traffic and revenue. I spoke with the NMDC, the people who handle collections and accounts for our UDAG. And I got some guidance that I provided to you, is something that we can do. I'm recommending that we put a moratorium on payments to those businesses who feel like they would benefit from not having to make their monthly payments for a while. I think we could do it for 3 months and then reassess. And at least that would take some of the burden of worrying about making their loan payments back to the UDAG program. Part of the UDAG program requirements are that they maintain insurance on the properties, and we're not going to suspend that. Obviously, that would not be my recommendation, but I certainly recommend providing a little bit of relief to our businesses that are going to be impacted by that. And I would make that motion for all of our UDAG accounts as an option for them, if they would want it, that they could benefit from that.
So we have how many businesses? Three?
Four.
And they're not all current?
Yes. Well, I mean, we have one that's in bankruptcy, so forget that one, but all of the others are all current in their payments. But you know, they're gonna be impacted by this, and
I see no problem with that. I'll make a motion.
Make a motion
We
by Doug.
accept that 3-month moratorium on UDAG payments.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by Doug, seconded by Lori, all in favor? I saw something, maybe you could talk about, Gary, in some of your information that you provided and stuff there. How about for late payments on here and there?
Okay, so some municipalities are waiving interest on payments for accounts that become like tax and sewer payments. I believe those are charter towns where a legislative body is not, it's not town meeting. We've
Town meeting.
already assessed what we're gonna charge for interest rates
Yep.
and when those interest rates start to take effect, when we start to charge interest through the town meeting process. So this board, I feel, doesn't have the authority to stop interest on their late property tax accounts.
Here we go. Makes sense, yeah. That means if we wanted to do something like that, we'd have to go to town meeting.
We would have to
We
go
got
to town
authority
meeting
to
for
do
that.
that, yeah.
Yes.
So, all right.
Last thing, you know, a couple of things, I know Chris Albert, who works with us at EMS, he is our safety guy. He gives us all of our safety trainings, whether it be at fire extinguisher, hepatitis, you know, bloodborne pathogen trainings. He works closely with Heather in the HR office to make sure that everybody's up to date on all of their annual trainings or trainings that need to be required periodically. And so I've asked him to put together sort of an employee exposure plan that he could recommend. I think it's something that I don't necessarily think that the board needs to approve, but I just want you to know that we are working proactively to put together some protocols for our employees, keep them safe. Just another thing to add, during our downtime, we're gonna consider if it's gonna be some downtime. Our municipal office accounting system, Trio, we've been putting off a much needed upgrade out of our Access-based accounting system and municipal accounting system to what is now what we call SQL. A lot of towns have already implemented that, but they went through there's a lot of glitches that need to be worked out when they're dumping data from one program to a next, and the accounts don't match up. So we have already, you know, I don't have a date yet. Well, we're going to find a date during this shutdown to go ahead and do that transfer, that move into the new modules. It'll be a good time for us because typically there are some glitches that sometimes cause delays of services with cash receiving. So it's going to be a good time for us to go ahead and do that, and we're going to take advantage of that. So I think during any slow time that we find ourselves going to be in, there's going to be plenty of work for us to do, getting caught up on other things. So we're going to keep busy as much as we can. And in any instances where employees may be able to work from home, we're going to encourage that as well.
I'd like to make a statement if I could. And Jason, you're filming this, right? I just want to, in advance, thank all our residents and our taxpayers in Madawaska for understanding what we're going to go through, what the world is going through, what every community is going through. We're going to make some decisions that might affect you, but we're going to work hand in hand to try to make this as smooth of a transition to where we're going as possible. Again, thank you for your understanding. I want to thank all the department heads that are here today. I want to wish all of you good luck, EMA, everyone that is going to potentially be exposed. I think working together we'll get through this. I guess that's all I have to add, unless you guys want to add something.
I'm all set.
All set. All right, at this point in time, is there a motion to adjourn? By Lori, seconded by Doug. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wouldn't it be a beautiful thing in a few weeks from now?
Real quick, set some stuff up and then you wanna.
Yeah,
Are you